right, my name is Bill Bowman. I'm the marketing director at Airiam. I'm here today to talk about vulnerabilities in software and patching and how to fix these vulnerabilities by effective patch management. So to kick things off, let's think about how software gets developed. A piece of software gets developed at a certain point in time to solve a problem or create more efficiencies within an organization. The developers that are developing it, they should be using secure coding practices known as DevSecOps, development security operations, and the software should be quality tested before it's released to make sure no bugs are present. But in reality, nothing is perfect. Over time, users of the software might discover things that don't work as intended, and also threat actors. They're looking at the software to see what's not quite right, what is not working as intended, what allows them to take certain actions that they can use to impact an organization. So the threat actors or others, they can take advantage of a bug or vulnerability to gain access to where they shouldn't. They can use that to breach information. By getting access to different areas as a result of a vulnerability, they can install malicious code like ransomware. So ransomware deployment through a vulnerability is a huge issue, and a lot has been made of it in recent years. So the most famous incident of a vulnerability leading to massive financial impacts and other impacts is Eternal Blue from 2017. So this vulnerability was also controversial because the NSA developed it and used it for years before alerting Microsoft. Eventually, the shadow broker hacker group got access to the vulnerability and leaked it. So that leak of the vulnerability happened about a month after Microsoft released a patch, and many companies didn't apply the patch. So because companies didn't apply the patch for Eternal Blue, this ransomware was then able to infect those organizations. So according to a vast over $14 billion in damages occurred as a result of the Eternal Blue vulnerability and the related WannaCry ransomware and NotPetya ransomware. Some big names were hit hard. Maersk, the shipping organization, lost $300 million. FedEx lost $400 million. Really, the impacts from these organizations not putting the patch in place and other causes as well was huge. So patches are critical because vulnerabilities happen. There's really it's difficult to mitigate all vulnerabilities. So as a result, software developers release updates. They release these patches on a regular basis. Just like your iPhone gets an update every once in a while for improvements to features or security reasons, your computer, your server, any device that has software on it will often require updates. And these updates are to make sure that loopholes and bugs are patched and secured. So software developers become aware that a security update is required by getting information from researchers who've discovered bugs and bug bounty kind of elements. Users might report the bugs, or in the worst cases, evidence that a hacker is actively exploiting a vulnerability in the software will occur. So the software developers see the bug, and then they inform the users. They inform the companies and people that are using the software. So this could happen through a typical press release kind of communication, email, an in-app notification would often occur to prompt people to update. And then here's a little bit about the vulnerabilities themselves. So there's millions and millions of vulnerabilities, but the US government and other nonprofits, they've made it a little bit easier for people to understand what vulnerabilities are out there. So there's a database maintained by MITRE. It's known as the Common Vulnerabilities and Exposure Database, CVE. The mission of the CVE is to identify, define, and catalog publicly disclosed cybersecurity vulnerabilities. Related to the CVE is the NVD. That's the National Vulnerabilities Database. That's maintained by the government agency NIST, and it's synchronized with the CVE. So you have the NVD, the CVE. They have the same database of vulnerabilities, and they're both sponsored by the U.S. federal government, and they're completely free for any organization or any person to check those out. Within those databases, each vulnerability has something called a common vulnerability scoring system, or to rephrase that, each vulnerability has a CVSS. So that rates the danger of the vulnerability. So if it's a very low danger, low risk vulnerability, not as critical to update. If it's a high CVSS score, and that means that it's a big impact, it's a big problem if a company falls victim to an attack by a threat actor utilizing that vulnerability. So really what that means is that you need to update. Organizations, companies, people, if they see an update's available, they should update. That's my number one tip. Make sure to update your software with the patches developed by your software vendors. If you're doing this in-house, you can test the updates on non-production systems or backups to make sure everything goes smoothly. Oftentimes, software has different customizations or different configurations. People might fear that an update's going to, make everything break something. So having a backup in place in case something does do the unexpected is important, and also documenting what changes have been made to a software, what customizations are in place. So when an update does happen, checking to make sure nothing is broken is important. And finally, working with the MSP or MSSP to handle updates is also a great idea. These are the experts. They can use patch management tools like Error Control by Airiam and other tools and other processes and systems to efficiently manage your software updates to make sure that you don't fall victim to ransomware attacks like we saw with WannaCry, to make sure your data is not exfiltrated, and to make sure that you're really working as efficiently as possible with an updated software. Thanks.